Hi, this is Karlene, immigration attorney. Today I'm going to talk about how to get USA investor visa. That's what you search. That's what I'm going to talk about. By the end of this video, you will learn how to invest in the United States and how to live legally in the United States with an investment. Do you want to work legally in the United States? Do you want to know how to invest in the United States and work legally? Do you want to know how to live in the United States with your entire family? And do you want to learn what kind of investment will allow you to live legally in the United States? Do you want to know how much you need to invest to live in the United States? I'm here to tell you and answer all your questions. The most important thing that you need to remember is that are you from a country that qualifies for the E-2 visa? Not all countries qualify, so you need to check the list ever so often because USCIS may add countries, may subtract countries. For example, Venezuela doesn't qualify as a treaty country. If you're a national of Venezuela, you cannot apply for the E-2 visa. But if you're from Venezuela and you have dual citizenship, dual nationality, so you're a Venezuelan and you're Italian, you're Venezuelan and you're Spanish, you have a Spanish citizenship or a Colombian citizenship, you can invest in the United States. You can apply for the E-2 visa. So how much money do you need to apply for an E-2 visa? Well, I usually recommend at least $100,000 and more. Of course, the more you invest, the USCIS will get excited and grant your visa. People ask, well, what about $70,000, $60,000? Yes, you can, but it's better to invest at least $100,000 or more. The most important thing again is that USCIS will ask you, where did you get the money? You always need to show the USCIS where you got that $100,000. You can get it from a family member, you can get it from your country, you can get it from the sale of a property, or just your personal savings, but you always need to show immigration the track of where that $100,000 came from. And I'm saying $100,000 because that's what I want you to invest, because it's better to invest $100,000 or more. Now, how do you show immigration where that $100,000 came from? Well, you need to show a transfer of money from a bank account in your country to a bank account in the United States, a transfer. You need to have all the documentation from the bank to show that the transfer left the bank in your country and it arrived at a bank in the United States and it was accepted. To do that investment, you must write a check for $100,000 to somebody if you're buying an existing business, or if you're starting a business, you need to show that that $100,000 was spent. It cannot be sitting in the bank, it must be spent. And of course, we need to show immigration how that is spent. You do not need to spend the $100,000 all at once. You may spend $50,000 for computer equipment, $20,000 for a car, $10,000 for rent, $10,000 for build out, $5,000 for furniture, but at the end, it should add up to $100,000. You may be wondering, what's the difference between an E-2 visa and an EB-5 visa? Remember, for the E-2 visa, it's an investor visa, it's a temporary visa. So you can invest $100,000, but it doesn't give you the green card. Now, the EB-5, when you invest $1 million, that gives you the green card. So there's a difference there. Remember the difference. The E-2 visa is a temporary visa. It allows you to stay in the United States temporarily. When you apply, you actually need to sign an affidavit that I will return to my country at the end of my E-2 investment. Now, how can you apply for this visa? Well, there are two ways to do it. You can apply within the United States. If you're in the United States with a tourist visa, you can convert that into an E-2 visa with your investment. If you apply for the E-2 visa in the United States, the immigration officer will give you almost 2.5 years. And then you need to renew the visa at the expiration of the visa. Now, it's renewable. You can keep on renewing it for a while. There's no limit on the renewal. If you apply for your E-2 visa at the embassy in your country, though, it's different. You get it for 5 years. So a lot of people prefer to apply with the visa, apply for the visa at the embassy in their country because they get it for 5 years. So instead of renewing the visa after 2.5 years, you can renew it after 5 years. Now, some people say, well, I prefer to stay in the United States and I prefer to apply for my visa here because I don't want to deal with the embassy. And that's fine. You never have to go to the embassy. You could stay here with your E2 visa, but the disadvantage is you need to apply, renew it after 2.5 years. The disadvantage too sometimes in applying for the E2 visa at the embassy in your country, sometimes they're a little bit tougher. You know, there are countries that will deny your visa and then made this investment in the United States, but you have to close the company or sell it or do something else with it. So, you know, there are advantages and disadvantages. Every case is different and we need to evaluate the country. For example, Argentina tends to be a little bit stricter. Spain tends to be a little bit softer. So what kind of company can you purchase for an investor visa? Well, I have clients who, you know, purchased beauty parlor. The best one for me was when a client purchased like a kiosk within a hotel, and we're selling, you know, coffee and toast and little empanadas, you know, and that was the most beautiful thing because people think, well, a coffee shop within a kiosk within a hotel works. Yes, it does work. And they spent about $70,000 on that, and it worked. You know, I've been saying 100,000 because I think immigration prefers about 100,000, but it did work with 70,000, and it's still going. It's still going, and there's a lot of success there, and they're very happy with that. So you could look at that. There's some people who will even buy a franchise, like a USPS packing store. There are some people who will buy a McDonald's. And that too can convert into the permanent residence, which we'll talk about in our next video. And there are people who have bought things like a franchise for like a dollar store, and all of this will work as an investment in the United States. If you want to learn more about the E2 visa, keep following us, subscribe to our channel. I have another video related to this topic that could be really helpful to you. So look at our link above or description below and follow us. I'm Karlene Punancy, immigration attorney for 35 years, and I'm here to help you.